Chris Webber, thanks for joining us. Let's get right out to 3D for tonight's game. We have the Rockets playing against who? The Wizards of Washington. Now, hey, DC, how you doing out there? How was your Thanksgiving, baby?
Thanksgiving was lovely. The family did well, and obviously, I had to fry my turkey, so I'm still full.
Well, that's I wanted to make sure you're okay. You look on the internet, those fried turkeys, they're exploring everywhere. Hey, check this out, D. Let's really just talk as players amongst players. When you look at the Wizards' history, not blaming Coach Brooks, but this has been a problem long before this coach, and that is the inconsistency of leadership in the locker room, no matter who you choose to put that blame on. Last year, when John Wall was out for a number of games, his team went back to an old movie and said, well, everybody eats. It feels good for everybody. And you saw little darts and shots being thrown in. On a game like tonight, I know they've won a couple and maybe feeling a little good, but how is the tone in the locker room with the team that has so much turmoil?
Well, C-Web, Isaiah, and K-Mac, the tone throughout the whole city is very, very gloomy. Let's put it out there right now. No Dwight Howard tonight and no Chris Paul. So that's from the basketball standpoint. But when you're not having fun coming to work, guys, and you're not looking forward to playing basketball, things are going a little crazy. When your superstar is not happy and all the people around the superstar are not happy, it may be time for change.
Well, 3D, hey, man, thank you. I know you out at your home. Get some Ben's Chili Bowl, bring it out on the plane for me, and we'll be catching up with you a little bit later. And, Zeke, we just heard our man 3D out there, and I'm just going to put you in a tough position, but you've been that way your whole life, winning, growing up in Chicago and running teams. Who would you trade on this team?
Well, you got to find a way either to get Porter playing better or Porter moved. And the reason why I say Porter is when you look at that salary right there, Bradley, Beal, and John Wall, at least they're giving you numbers. Right now, the chemistry may be a little messed up on the team, but if you're talking about somebody that, in my opinion, that hasn't lived up to the salary slot or being that third scorer that they're looking for, then you got to say that Porter has been the most disappointing in terms of the way he's played, the way he's performed. He may be a great guy and everything else, but I'm just talking about in terms of winning and losing. Whenever they get scoring from him and whenever they get good production out of him, the Wizards are a totally different ball club. But when he's not contributing, then, they slide and all these other problems start.
See, I would think, Kevin, and I love what you said, but I would think it's Wall and Bill because even though Porter is the guy that you have to move, you're overpaying and he's not doing enough, it seems like if they're not winning, it's on Wall and Beal, no?
I don't like the chemistry between Wall and Beal, and I honestly think you're going to have to throw Porter in with either Wall or Beal to move him. I don't think anybody will take Porter's contract on his face without one of those guys in there, you know what I mean? So now all of a sudden you're talking about having an unbelievably huge package. Which is hard to do during the regular season because you got to match up salaries and stuff. So, when you ask that question, Chris, the first thing that comes to my mind is who can I trade? I'm trading who I can probably before who I really want to, because I would say that Beal probably, to me, I like Beal the best of those three, Porter, Beal, and Wall, just because right now Wall looks funky to me. Yeah. He doesn't look like he's playing with any sense of purpose. He's just out there balling like you would on a Saturday morning, But his contract is hard to move too, Wall's contract. So they're in a tough spot. They need to make change, and they have huge contracts that are hard to trade.
Zeke, and we look at the other side, Houston, they've been up and down trying to find their way, and right now, defensively seems to be their problem. We know they brought back their assistant coach and said, hey, we need you to be our defensive czar. You have John Lucas on the bench, who we know is a great defensive, great basketball man. But is it their scheme? Is it the effort? Is it the personnel? What do you see?
Well, it's defense. And McHale can speak to this, right? When I was with the Detroit Pistons, we were a team, and we still have the league record for scoring 186 points, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at
186,
186, because we were strictly about offense, right?
Right.
And then we had to change our mindset, and we had to become a better defensive team. And when we watch Houston play defense, the way they compete, the way they rotate, their defensive intensity, it lacks. And I'm gonna talk about James Harden here because, all of us have played on championship teams and have won championships. But when your best player is an absolute non-interested, poor defender. You can't win a championship. I don't care how good he is on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, if your best player is not interested in playing defense, don't want to play defense, then you're not going to win games. You will win games, but you won't win the championship.
Okay, Zeke, I ask you questions. This is all players here. I'm going to go taking our coaching hat off and all the other stuff we did. We're just straight players. Would you follow a guy who did not play defense? Like if he comes in and says at halftime, hey, man, we got to pick this up and everything else. Seriously, only play one side of the ball. What's your first thought as a player?
I'm going to smack my lips like, man, please,
you?
Yeah.
I'm going to smack him.
That's the bad boys locker room. A little insight to the bad boys locker room.
I've always said that. It's really hard as a player to say that I'm going to follow some guy who's not giving me effort on both sides of the ball. Because the defensive side of the ball is every bit as important. You know, you won championships. Chris won they had great teams in Sacramento. There were a lot of nights, man. You had to get holds. If you wanted to win that game, you had to get holds. Forget scoring more. You had to get holds. And you know, and that's when you need everybody bought in, everybody playing both sides of the ball. I think with Houston right now, part of it is personnel because they traded away Mabute and Trevor Ariza so they could switch all this stuff. But I always said, man, if your top player is not vested on both sides of the ball, you're only going to go so far. And right now, I don't think James is putting the effort in he did last year on the defensive side. I thought last year he was better defensively, and they had a better team defensively last year. But they're 9-9. One last thing I'm going to say: how about if I told you Washington and Houston at this point in the season would have a record of 14-20?
I would say I would be the most disappointed in Houston. Washington, we kind of knew could be funky. But Houston, we was talking about them competing against Golden State and winning the championship.
I mean, they really could have won last year if you look at maybe if Chris Paul didn't get hurt. But like you said, this isn't the same team and definitely not the same mentality of last year. So we'll see what's coming up. Hey, check